the morning on 1430 KASI. My guest, cybersecurity expert and attorney extraordinary, Shawn Tuma, is with me this morning. And I'll tell you what, it's been so interesting so far. I don't know how you're going to top it, but may move off private security to more of national security. And, Shawn, I quake in my boots. You know, when I grew up with the duck under your desk and protect yourself from the nuclear bomb. That, to me, doesn't seem like near as big a threat as what I'm hearing now through cyber hacking of what could be our national services. Oh, wait, I got to punch your button, Shawn. I was talking to Shawn off air. There you are. But
okay, there.
Yeah. Hi.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi there.
Hi,
Glad to be back. Thank you.
You're welcome. Glad to have you back. It's been a lonely show. Somebody hacked my phone is what happened, Shawn.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
That's how we live now. Anything we can't explain, it's because of hacking.
Well, I wanted to get on this because people sometimes think I'm just paranoid as heck. But as much as we talk as private citizens that we have out there, when I think of our national setup and how technologically dependent that we have become, that there are not just people, there are entire nations out there trying to hack in to some of our most, what we consider, secure areas.
That's exactly right. You know, I'm part of a group here in the DFW area that meets once a month, a few of us from the private sector, but with representative of the cyber units of certain agencies, mainly of the federal government. And one of the first meetings I went to several years ago, I mentioned the power grid, you know, and how we always think the power grid is such a primary focus, and it is, and how catastrophic it would be if something happened to that. But then one of the other people looked at me and said, imagine being downtown if they cut off our sewer supply.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. You know, we think power grid because it's obvious, but what about the sewer management system and wastewater and all? And then you look at everything from the financial sector to nuclear power plants and things of that nature. And the bad guys are always trying to get in and do harm, but we have a great team of good people who are fighting back, thank goodness. And let's just hope they always keep winning.
I can't imagine the kind of mind that you need to be constantly battling something like this, because the bad guys are just as intent on getting in as much as the good guys are for preventing it.
That's right, and they're geniuses. I mean, when you sit down and talk with people who are really, really skilled at these kinds of activities, and I'm not. I'm a lawyer. You know, everybody knows about us lawyers, right? but it's amazing just to see the different level that they are on and how they think of things and the ingenious ways that they come up with stuff. And what's sad is our service agencies are having a hard time keeping up with the demand, because a lot of kids, by the time they're in high school, have already been taunted and converted and you know, tempted over onto the bad side because there's quick, easy money to be made. And they, you know, it's like a gang in, you know, back in the old days, but now it's cyber gangs, and they're recruiting these kids at the grade school, middle school levels. And so by the time they're out of high school, and we would hope we would be sending them to college and getting the best and brightest of our talent, we're not able to because they're already gone to the dark side.
Now, is part of this problem, and I'll use the example, the most recent example, Mr. Snowden, who accessed certain documents, let him out. Of course, we all know the story of that. If you don't, there's a movie coming out here soon. But is there kind of an aura, a shine there that appeals to people, you know? Well, he's a bad guy, but he's a good guy, kind of a thing. Is there an aura or something that people think that they can be by being hackers, et cetera?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, this is hacking has been the theme of the most recent James Bond movies.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you get any cooler than that?
You don't.
You know, and so hacking, I mean, that is the new cool thing to do. And especially if you're a bad guy and you have, you know, you've grown up in a way that you idolize or respect people who are out, you know, whether I say bad guy, either stealing money or being rebellious to society and causing chaos or what have you. But that's the cool thing to do. And when you start talking at a cocktail party about, you know, the intricacies of North Korea attacking Sony,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that raises a lot of attention. Now, the fact is most hacking or most, you know, data theft is somebody losing a thumb drive or a laptop or
Yeah.
having their password lost. That's what most of it is, but the sexy part is what we like to sell.
Yeah, and you mentioned the grid, et cetera, but it really, and this is the reason I'm not losing sleep at night, but believe me, it gives me plenty of thought out there, is, and we'll use the grid because, as you said, it's the most obvious thing, but if the power grid goes down in this country, you don't have to march in here with soldiers, and the panic and pandemonium that would, and the civility that would be lost by that happening is amazing.
That's exactly right. I mean, you talking about a Civil War type scenario. I mean, when people are hungry and have no food, when people have no water, you know, it's survival. It's the most basic instinct at that point. It brings forth the worst of human nature. And, you know, I think people in the more rural areas
Mm-hmm.
might be able to manage it better.
Yeah.
But you think about people in the major metropolitan areas.
Yeah.
I mean, it's devastating.
Well,
It would be, like you said, like a nuclear bomb.
yeah, and I'm of a notion that the Walking Dead are out there already, because if that happens and we lose all this, normal citizens are going to be, because they're so dependent on it now, are going to be the Walking Dead, so to speak. They're out. They'll be lost, quite frankly.
Sure. I mean, how many of us know how to go into the woods and survive for a week?
Yeah.
Not many anymore.
Yeah, and it just bothers the heck out of me. I know often my colleagues referred to me as old-fashioned. I said, but for many, many reasons in my head, I felt we were less vulnerable, that we were less susceptible to this kind of damage. And now I think we got so much on it. Just one brilliant hacker being access can do an awful lot of damage. You don't need a nuclear bomb.
I think you're right. I mean, then at least we knew the threat,
Mm-hmm.
and we could see the threat and see it coming to a certain degree. Now you have no idea.
Yeah, and
You have no idea how to prepare.
third world nations have got computer experts. I mean, if they've got nothing else, they've got computer experts. So.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, many of the hackers that we see come from third world countries or from, you know, former Eastern Bloc countries that they have nothing but internet access and a lot of time on their hands.
I don't want to panic anybody, but will we continue to be successful in preventing this, or is it a matter of time?
I think we will continue to be successful in preventing this on a large scale, but we are going to have slip-ups here and there. Our government, God bless, you know, the men and women of our armed services and of our government branches that are out
Mm-hmm.
doing this, because they are fighting this battle on a daily basis. It's like trying to combat the tide of the ocean. It's just continuous. But fortunately, they have wonderful resources. We don't know about a lot of it, and that's a good thing.
I think so.
You know, we don't want to tell the bad guys what we're doing to try to stop them.
Mm-hmm.
And they're incredibly dedicated and hardworking. So I think we're going to continue to win, and I certainly hope we do.
Shawn, in that same respect, you know, we're putting the bad guys on one side and we're the good guys on another. But I have to think even our government is working in here we go. We're not giving out any national secrets, but is working in reverse, where a lot of countries think we might be the bad guy trying to get into theirs.
Sure, and we are. And our government has admitted that we are. I mean, we have an active cyber espionage presence, and it's very aggressive, and it's the best in the world. Where we differ is our exercises are based on our national security and protection of our national security, whereas some countries use those assets for financial interest, stealing trade secrets and intellectual property and bettering the business side. And our country has taken a strong stand against that.
Will we, I'm trying to formulate this in a correct text. What do we, as John and Joe average out there, when we see services like, I'll use an example and a brand name, but LifeLock or some of these out there, are these good ideas? And I'm not trying to promote or demote them or anything like that, but are these necessary elements in this day and age?
They're good. They're not 100%, of course. As you said earlier, nothing is. But they are another line of defense. And the way a lot of these work is they monitor our financial accounts, our credit reports and things of that nature, and look for anomalies that they wouldn't ordinarily see. And so many of us have now been victims of these data breaches, where our information has been disclosed. If it's a credit card, that's one thing. Because you cancel the credit card, they issue a new one, and you go on about your business. But if it's your personal information, like your name and Social Security number, or God forbid your health records that gets out, those things don't change. They're there forever. And so if people are using that, it's good to have these services to help defend against that and at least alert you. And really the biggest lesson is vigilance. We have to be vigilant on all of these areas now. We can no longer just say, I don't like it, I don't want to be engaged in it, because we're in it whether we know it or not.
And it's forever. If my understanding is right, it's forever. It's
forever. I mean, health records are the most valuable data on the black market right now.
And give me an idea how they would use health records.
Well, one of the most egregious way they use them is they have rings of a criminal, theft ring set up where they'll use people's health records to bill insurance companies for surgeries that don't actually happen.
Oh.
And so they get the payment, and then you show up at the hospital, with an appendix problem, and they pull up your electronic health record and say, well, it can't be that because you had your appendix removed last year. And so they're making this money. You're now having a hard time with your treatment, and then they'll use those records to write prescriptions that they'll take for, OxyContin or what have you,
sure,
and then go and sell that on the black market as well. And then they can resell that same record while they're using it because it doesn't expire.
That's amazing. That's amazing. What's your best advice to Betty and Bill Average here as to how they can best use the Internet and what you should and should not be doing on it?
It all starts with your passwords.
Okay.
You need good passwords, and you need to keep them safe and secure. And never use the default password.
Okay. That makes sense. Makes absolute sense. Caution is the word of the day and should be every day out there. And, if you're going to lay your life on the line, expect somebody else to borrow it. Pretty much it?
That is exactly right.
Shawn, I have absolutely enjoyed our time together. May I impose upon you, maybe get together with you again at a later date?
Absolutely. This has been a pleasure. I would love to.
All right, my friend. Well, if I get down, I've gotten so many friends from down in the Dallas-Fort Worth area via the Jeff Crilly and his wonderful online source for me, and you've been another one of the great ones down there. So I think if I ever get down there, I'm just going to have to, rent a restaurant. We'll all have dinner together.
Well, I'm looking out of my office window at the new Dallas Cowboys star training facility.
Oh!
So there's lots for you to see right here.
I've always loved it. I always tell people, I said, I've been to Dallas, hundreds of times, but it was only through the airport because when I worked for ESPN, I was traveling all over doing my sports, and Dallas was one of the hubs I flew through, but I never had much time to look at the city itself, and I find it fascinating, and I hope someday I can come down and shake your hand personally.
I would love that. We have a wonderful city, and you let me know, and I'll set up dinner reservations.
You got her, my friend. Shawn, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you. I've enjoyed it.
Have a wonderful day.